we'll take roll call, please.
Bodie,
Here.
Torrey,
Here.
Carberry Montgomery,
Here.
Kroll. Here. Rosendahl.
Here.
All right, if you could please stand as you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, since we're among friends here tonight, I'm going to try, in substitution of the character count statement, I've been working on a civility statement. I'm going to try a first draft of this. We'll see how people react to this. Before we begin tonight's meeting, we pause to orient ourselves in the kind of civic life we're here to practice. Civility, as we understand it, is not about politeness, etiquette, or agreement. It's rooted in an inner disposition in recognizing the equal human dignity of every person present, including those with whom we may sharply disagree. Each of us is responsible for how we speak, how we listen, and how we conduct ourselves. We're not responsible for controlling one another's views, reactions, or conclusions. This space belongs to all of us. We will speak honestly, refrain from demeaning or coercing one another, and remain present even when the conversation is difficult. By holding one another in view as persons rather than obstacles, we sustain the trust that makes shared civic life possible in Urbandale tonight and beyond. You like that? I may tweak it a little bit, but I thought I'd give it a try tonight.
Thank you.
All right. With that, is there a motion to approve the agenda? And we are going to delete item 9.1 from the agenda.
So moved. Second.
My Rosendahl, second by Bodie. Discussion, please vote. Oh, we don't have screens.
Yeah, we don't have screens.
I apologize. Give me a moment.
All
I'll
right,
get
that
reset.
passes, correct?
Yes.
All right. We are going to do a presentation for the National African American History Month. And Ebony, you're going to, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see her there. Okay, Victoria, good. You're here, so you made it. I'm going to read this and I'll ask you to come up and to accept it. So, whereas the city of Urbandale is proud to recognize February as the National African American History Month, also known as Black History Month. This is a time to honor and celebrate the legacy of Black Americans whose power to lead, to overcome, and to expand the meaning and practice of American democracy has helped our nation become a more fair and just society. And whereas this month is an opportunity for all citizens of Urbandale to acknowledge and reflect upon the heritage of Black Americans and to recommit ourselves to promoting diversity, equality, and justice in our community. And whereas this country was established upon the profound but simple idea that all people are created equal and should be treated equally throughout our lives. Now therefore I, Robert Andeweg, Mayor of the City of Urbandale, do hereby proclaim the month of February as African American History Month and urge all residents of Urbandale to participate in their scheduled events that recognize the vital role that Black Americans have had in the shaping of our nation. I'm proud to sign this. I'm going to ask Victoria Henderson Weber from the NAACP chapter to come up and accept this.
Three. 1, 2, 3. Next. Right.
Just say a few words about it. Sure. Podium is yours.
So on behalf of the NAACP Metro Des Moines branch and Black residents throughout the Metro, I want to thank you, Mayor and council members, for taking the time to honor African American History Month. At a moment when some question the value of teaching or sharing history, it matters that an Iowa city is choosing to do exactly that. Not quietly, not passively, but publicly. Iowa has a long and often overlooked record of leading on civil rights. Before Iowa was even a state, the Iowa Territory ruled that a Black man could not be treated as property in the Ralph Montgomery case. Iowa legalized interracial marriage more than a century before it became national law. Iowa was the first state to desegregate public schools through Clark versus the Board of Directors. Here in central Iowa, Fort Des Moines trained the nation's first Black officers and became the birthplace of the National Bar Association, where Black attorneys were excluded elsewhere. These moments remind us that progress is not accidental, that it is chosen. So today, I want to thank the City of Urbandale for choosing to honor that history, and for recognizing and understanding that, the understanding that where we have been helps all of us understand and decide better where we are going. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Victoria. Now we are in citizens forum. This is the opportunity to address the council on something not on part of tonight's agenda. I don't think there's anybody even here to do that, but this is the opportunity. All right, we'll move on. Adoption of minutes, first from the January 20 meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Bodie. Discussion, please vote. That passes. I'll wait for your thumbs up. All right. And then item 5.2 is to approve the minutes from the January 30 special meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
by Rosendahl. I think discussion, please vote. That passes. Item 6 is the consent agenda, and we have 24 items on that for approval.
So move.
Okay, motion by Bodie,
Second.
second by Cacciatore. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Okay, we move into public hearings. Item 7.1 is a public hearing to consider the revenue purpose statement for electric franchise fees, and the notice for this was published in the, bear with me here, January 23, 2026 Des Moines Register. And is there any objections to that? Notice is published.
There were none.
Motion to open this public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Carberry Montgomery. Discussion, please vote. That passes. And we'll turn over to John Coney to introduce it. John?
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. This is the next step in the franchise and franchise fee process that we are working through. So in the consent agenda, you just did the second reading of the ordinance for the electric and natural gas. And both of those include a franchise fee. And by Iowa law, we need to adopt a revenue purpose statement for what we will do with those franchise fees once they are collected. Nicole, could you? Sorry. So Iowa Code Section 364.2.4-F actually spells out what exactly we would need to do for the revenue purpose statements, and that is because we do have the electric and natural gas franchise fee inside of the franchises that are working their way through adoption moving forward. What is the revenue purpose statement and why are we going through it? Really, it's to authorize the allocation of the revenue, so we're taking it in and segregating that into a special account inside of the general fund. So that's a separate account that's there, and then you get to determine what exactly will we spend those funds on above and beyond the franchise management that goes with the everyday to do the right-of-ways. And so this is the what is to do with the rest of the funds if there are any left there. And I'll be honest with you, yes, there will be additional funds left there above and beyond the management of the franchises. So that's why it's important to drill down and to make sure that we define what those uses could be based on Iowa law. So the recommended uses based on Iowa law is most of them is what we are recommending to you tonight. And I've kind of grouped them into categories here. The first three here are those things that you would need to do if there was a natural disaster or some hazard. So restore, clean up, replace, mitigate future disasters, and then abatement for fees to build infrastructure back up, both public and private. The other two uses here is to actually build public infrastructure. So it's to construct or repair public works, utilities, transportation systems, and then also to do sidewalks, pedestrian passes, and other infrastructure that is throughout the Urbandale community. And then the next three are general public services, so fire, police, public safety, economic development, and then energy conservation for low-income homes, and then also for weatherization programs out there. And these are all defined in the State Code 364-2. These are expressly listed out as these are the things that you can do with the revenue from your revenue franchise fees. There is one other option there, and that is property tax relief, and that's not a recommendation from staff to include that in the revenue purpose statement. All the things that we've listed above indirectly tie into property taxes. So those are things that you would levy a tax for or a bond for. And so those are general. Property tax relief, if you do list that, is supersedes the others above, and you would need to denote a percent. So 5%, 10%, 8%, and that has to come off first, so it's less flexible moving forward. So in summary, we need to authorize the allocation of the revenue and then what that allocation of revenue could be spent on. This is for both the natural gas and the electric. I'm going to do one presentation tonight because they are identical in both purpose statements. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them on both.
I had a quick question on the approval of the revenues or the revenue purpose statement. If we were to change the percentage in any way in the future, is it optional to come back to the revenue statement, or is that something that has to be approved every time the fee gets changed?
Every time the fee is changed, you have to go through the revenue purpose statement process again.
Gotcha.
So if it was to go up, then you would need to do it. It's also, if it's up and you would wish to drop it, you would also need to go through that process again also.
I guess I meant to ask this last week or maybe in previous discussions, but so for all practical purposes, we're transitioning from the local lost penny to 1% franchise fee. Are we able, if we wanted to increase the 1%? Or do we have to go back to Mid-American in one of the openers to do that?
The agreements are structured that this initial round, you are to set the franchise fee at whatever you want, 1 through 5% allowed by Iowa law. And then every 18 months, you could come back and change that percentage.
Okay,
So that's in the franchise agreements, that every 18 months, you could move that up and or down.
okay, so we start at 1 and we'll stay there till things get wild and crazy, hopefully not, though. Okay, thank you.
You do have that option, yeah.
All right. We are in public hearing on this item, and just for the record, is there anyone here who would like to address the council on this? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to close this public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Bodie. Discussion, please vote. That passes. That's for motion on the item.
Motion to approve resolution 032-2026.
Motion by Rosendahl,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Moving to item 7.2 is the public hearing to consider the revenue purpose statement for the natural gas franchise fees. The public notice for this was also published in the January 23, 2026. Des Moines Register ask for any objections to that.
There were none.
Is there a motion to open this public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Bodie. Discussion, please vote. That passes. We're in public hearing on this item. Would anyone like to address the council on this item? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to close this public hearing?
So
So
moved.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery, second by Bodie. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Move approval of Council Letter 8444.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Bodie. Discussion, please vote. That passes. All right, great, thank you. John, thanks for your hard work on this. That's very welcome. All right, moving on to item 7.3 is a public hearing and consideration of bids for the 101st Street and Dennis Drive Preservation Project. The public notice for this was published on the January 16, 2026 Des Moines Register. Ask for objections to that. Notice is published.
There were none.
Is there a motion to open this public hearing?
So moved?
Motion by Rosendahl,
Second.
second by Bodie. Discussion, please vote. That passes. And introducing this is our Director of Engineering and Public Works, John Larson. John?
Yep, so good evening, Mayor, members of the council. This is the first of many bid tabulations tonight, but this is for our 101st Street and Dennis Drive Preservation Project. This was a project that was designed by city staff. On January 28th, we received 12 bids on the project. We're recommending the low bid from HS Concrete Incorporated in the amount of $387,754.05. Their bid was approximately $173,000 or 31% less than our engineer's estimate. And when this project will be patching approximately 4,000 square yards in 83 locations. There are a couple of temporary road closures that will be required, and we anticipate this being completed by September of this year. So just to kind of show where the project is at, up on the north is Douglas Avenue. On the right-hand side here is 100th Street. On the left-hand side here is 104th, so we do some patching on the frontage road, Dennis Drive, 101st on down to Justin. And as far as the road closures, there's just two locations. One is where Dennis Drive meets 100th Street. We're gonna close that, again, just because of its proximity to 100th Street, estimate in a week, maybe two tops that would be closed. Then right down here is we're kind of northeast of Justin Drive. The jointing really doesn't allow you to keep the road open, so again, we would need to close it to do the stretch through here. Otherwise, everything else will keep open for at least one lane of traffic while we're doing our patching like we typically do. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
What's the timing of this again,
Timing?
of this project?
We'll have a pre-con to learn that, but they can typically, depending on the weather, they'll start April, May, and then get this got to be done by late September. I don't believe it'll take that long. It's just a matter of when it'll fit in the contractor's schedule.
With that Dennis Drive closure, is that gonna impact one of the lanes of 100th going south, or is that gonna
Correct.
stay?
Yep, I
assume?
think they're gonna have to be able to do their work, yep.
And we're not doing the rest of the frontage close enough to the railroad just because we don't really have a firm answer on how that whole corner is gonna lay out?
Right, and it's my belief that very likely that portion of the frontage road will be removed in conjunction with building the police station. So we, of course, did not want to spend any money there fixing it up.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? All right, we're on public hearing on this item. Would anyone like to address the council on this item? Seeing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved?
Second.
By Rosendahl, second by Bodie. Discussion, please vote. That passes. We have 4 items for consideration.
Move Resolution 038-2026.
Motion by Bodie,
Second?
second by Rosendahl. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Move Resolution 039-2026.
Motion by Bodie,
Second?
second by Rosendahl. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Move Resolution 040-2026.
Motion by Bodie.
Second.
Second by Rosendahl. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
And move Resolution 055-2026.
By Bodie.
Second.
Second by Rosendahl. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Item 7.4 is a public hearing and consideration of bids for the 2026 PCC Patch Program Phase 1. The public notice for this is published in the January 16, 2026 Des Moines Register. Ashley, any objections to that? Notice is published.
There were
Is
none.
there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Kroll. Second by Cacciatore. Discussion, please vote. That passes. John?
Okay, so this is our bid tabulation for Phase 1 of our annual patch program. Again, this is another project designed in-house. On January 28th, we received 9 bids for this project, and we'll be recommending the low bid from Brothers Cleaning Corporation doing business as Brothers Concrete in the amount of $670,060.13. Their bid was approximately $209,000 or 24% less than our estimate. And with this project, we'll be patching approximately 7,300 square yards at 228 locations. This one also has a completion date in September of this year. So to kind of show where we're at, up on the top or north is Douglas Parkway. Here's Des Moines Christian, then 128th Street. So it's a couple neighborhoods to the southwest of 128th and Douglas. I guess with that, I'd be glad to answer any other questions.
John, now, 2 different occasions, it looks like the estimates that we've had have been high. Is that because the concrete's coming back in down, or is it because we're estimating high? Like,
I think we're still maybe estimating a little bit high, considering the number of bids that we're still kind of in the upper range. But again, you never want, as the engineer, be the lowest one out of everybody.
Okay. It's good news regardless.
Yeah, I think bids are still fairly consistent. It's just good that we have so many people bidding.
Thank you.
All right, we're on public hearing on this item. Would anyone like to address the council on this item? Seeing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Kroll, second by
Second.
Carberry Montgomery. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Move approval of resolution 044-2026.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Rosendahl. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Move resolution 0545-2026.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Rosendahl. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Move resolution 046-2026.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Rosendahl. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Item 7.5 is a public hearing consideration of bids for the 2026 PCC Patch Program Phase 2. The public notice for this was also published in the January 16, 2026 Des Moines Register. Ask are there any objections? That notice is published.
There were
Is
none.
there a motion to open this public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Bodie. Discussion, please vote. That passes. John?
Okay, so this is our bid tabulation for Phase 2 of our annual patching program. This is another one that was designed in-house, and on January 28th, we received 9 bids on this project. This is a little bit bigger project than the Phase 1. So we're recommending the low bid of Brothers Cleaning Corporation, again, doing business as Brothers Concrete in the amount of $1,102,677.16. Their low bid was approximately $305,000 or 22% less than our estimate. And here we'll be doing 12,300 square yards of patching at 161 locations, and we'll also be rebuilding 10 intakes. This one will have a temporary road closure with it, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And we're looking at it to be completed in September. So to show where everything's at, 86th Street's just off the sheet, but we got Colby Parkway at the top, and then Hickman at the bottom. And so we got Colby Woods Drive down to 78th Street, so most of it is to the west. We'll be doing projects in a future year that'll go a little bit further to the east over here. I just kind of want to hit on the only closure that there will be down at 78th Street and Hickman Road. There's a little frontage road that connects the apartments over to 78th Street. when we were doing design, we were trying to look at a way to keep 78th and the frontage road open at the same time. It was likely all the different ways we had to break it up. It was probably gonna be 3 to 4 weeks to do all that work. We think by closing down 78th, but still providing access to the apartments in a week or a week and a half, we should hopefully be able to get all that done, and it's gonna be much safer for the workers and the people to just close it down. So that's why we're looking to close that one portion down is the only part. Everything else we'll keep open to traffic while we're patching. With that, be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for John?
With that, would there be any Hickman closures that would be needed, or is that all tucked back now?
We wouldn't have to do closures on Hickman other than we'd close the left turn lane in, but nope, there's an overlay on it, so we're starting just north of that a little bit.
Gotcha.
Will we try to divert traffic turning north onto Colby Woods Drive from Hickman? I mean, will we have signage or?
Correct, there'll be a detour up there that'll take you from Hickman up to 86th Street and then back on around, yep. And then there'll be signs within the neighborhood that also say that it's closed to the south.
How long will that closure be?
Like I said, I'm hoping we can do it in a little over a week.
All right, any further questions?
I've got a question for Maria.
Yeah.
This is basically my house here, so I'm just wondering, shouldn't I abstain? Do I need to abstain or anything like that?
I think if you feel you have an interest in the matter at hand and would prefer to abstain, I think that that's acceptable. You don't have a financial interest in the contract, so it's not required, but
Okay.
I'd leave that up to you.
All right, thanks.
Full disclosure, my home is also in this area.
Well, we need somebody to vote on this.
But
I'm good, I'm good.
I'm not likely to,
I-
I don't think we have to.
I don't
abstain.
think you have any conflict of
Okay,
interest.
just wanted to make sure. Thanks.
With that, we are in public hearing. Would anyone like to address the council on this item? Seeing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Cacciatore,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes. We have 4 items.
Motion to approve Resolution 047-2026.
Motion by Rosendahl.
Second.
Second by Cacciatore. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Motion to approve Resolution 048-2026.
Motion by Rosendahl.
Second.
Second by Cacciatore. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Motion to approve Resolution 049-2026.
Motion by Rosendahl.
Second.
Second by Cacciatore. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Motion to approve Resolution 056-2026.
Motion by Rosendahl.
Second.
Second by Cacciatore. Discussion, please vote. That passes. And I dare one of you to get up for one of these public hearings, by the way. I'm always waiting to see if one of you are going to stand up. so. Item 7.6 is a public hearing and consideration of bids for the Douglas Avenue urbanization plantings from Patricia Drive to 111th Street project. The public notice for this was also published in the January 16, 2026 Des Moines Register. I ask if there are objections to that notice is published.
There were none.
Motion to open this public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Rosendahl.
Second.
Second by Cacciatore. Discussion, please vote. That passes. John?
So these are our bids for our Douglas Avenue plantings from Patricia Drive to 111th Street. So on January 28th, we received 5 bids for this project. We're recommending the low bid from Country Landscapes, Inc. in the amount of $582,975.90. They were approximately $270,000 or 32% less than our engineer's estimate. And again, this has a completion date in September. Just kind of some of the overall quantities. We're looking at over 2,000 1-gallon perennials, over 450 3-gallon shrubs, over 100 of different sized deciduous trees, and over 2,500 bulb plantings. There'll also be some irrigation, median sculptures, and light columns. The irrigation's not your traditional irrigation with the heads. They're basically hose bibs at different locations that parks can connect to do spot waterings and things as needed. It's also just kind of the plan sheet, typical. So we've got plantings, or the trees are typically outside in the right of way, and then our plantings in the medians. It's very similar to our project that we did east of 100th Street. We'll also have the same type artwork in the middle with the leaves, so this will be in 3 locations within the project. Then we'll also have our lighted signs by the intersections. We've got 8 of those in the project. We did have a public meeting on this, so we invited all the businesses in. A couple participated. They had some comments on site, you know, the line of sight and thing for their businesses and signs, so we worked with them. So I think we've worked everything out with everybody that had concerns. And then with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, John. Any questions? We are in public hearing on this item, and would anyone like to address the council on this item? Seeing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing? Motion by Kroll.
Second.
Second by Rosendahl. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Motion to approve resolution 041-20.
Motion by Rosendahl.
Second.
Second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Motion to approve resolution 042-2026.
Motion by Rosendahl.
Second.
Second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Motion to approve resolution 043-2026.
By Rosendahl.
Second.
Second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Item 7.7 is a public hearing and consideration of bids for the 142nd Street paving project from Meredith Drive to Waterford Road. The public notice for this was also published in the January 16, 2026 Des Moines Register, and ask for any objections to that. Notice is published.
There were none.
Ask for a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Kroll.
Second.
Second by Cacciatore. Discussion, please vote. That passes. John?
Okay. So this is our bids for our 142nd Street paving project, Meredith Drive to Waterford Road. On January 28th, we received 7 bids on this project. Just a kind of reminder, this is a joint project with Grimes, and we are the lead agency. So we do have a 28E that outlines cost participation. It also requires each city to approve the bids before we enter into the contract. So based on that, we're going to allow Grimes time to act from their council, and then we'll bring this back on February 17th on the consent agenda to be approved. But we wanted to hold the public hearing, go through the other steps, and then we'll just actually award the contract at a future meeting. With that, in that meeting, we'll be recommending the low bid from Elder Corporation, the amount of $5,560,000. They were approximately $1.2 million, or 18% less than our estimate. And Urbandale's share of that is approximately $5.2 million. So just kind of talk a little bit about the project. So at the bottom of the screen is Meredith Drive, Waterford Road's in the middle, and then Meadow Drive up at the top or the north end. With 142nd Street in the green box, that's the area that'll be fully reconstructed, including the intersection with Waterford Road. In the lighter blue box, that is the area where the asphalt overlay will occur. And if you can recall from the CIP discussions, Grimes is taking the lead on doing the asphalt work on Meadow Drive. So again, in the future, they'll be bidding that project up here, which will ultimately be a joint project with us, just with Grimes as the lead. A little bit about the staging. The way we have it set up currently is they'll start with the intersection at Waterford, do that, and then they'll split the green part basically in half. We have one driveway down here that does not have a secondary way out, so while the north portion is being done, they'll have a temp road that'll take them south. Once the north piece is down, we'll send them back north and work on the south piece. So the closure of 142nd Street will be most of this construction season in 2026. A little bit about the project, some of the things we covered during the assessment process. Again, we have roughly 4,600 feet of 142nd Street that'll be reconstructed and 223 feet on Waterford. It'll be a 65-foot wide cross section that's 2 25-foot lanes and a 15-foot median. we'll use our standard 8 1/4 reinforced concrete. There'll be a 10-foot sidewalk on the west side, no sidewalk on the east side at this time until the farm fields do develop. And then up on Waterford, our complete street section on the north will be extended over to the intersection, and then the 5-foot sidewalk will be extended on the south side of the intersection. As far as assessments, we only assess for paving and sidewalks. Our preliminary estimate used the $90 per square yard for paving. Our bids came in at $65.75 a square yard. Our preliminary estimate for the sidewalk was at $60, and the bid came in at $41. So everybody's preliminary assessment has come down. And with the original preliminary assessment, we had one deficiency. Now we do not have any deficiencies. So just kind of in summary, you can see that the preliminary assessment, the assessable costs were roughly 1.9 million. Now it's 1.4. The city's cost dropped from roughly 5.5 million down to 5.1, and the total assessable went from 7.4 to 6.5 million. With that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, John. Questions for John?
Yeah, is line 7, I think that's what it's called, the Hubble project, is that under construction this summer or not yet?
I don't think it is yet, but they'll, like I said, they have other access. If I can pull
Okay.
again,
They
have-
could access it through Waterford, but
Correct.
I didn't
Yep.
know if that would cause undue stress on anything, if,
Nope.
okay.
Nope. They'll still have access.
When you said earlier that we would award, is it that we would award the contract at a future meeting?
Correct.
Or, okay. I'm just curious, because there's resolution 051.
Okay, we're a contract, sorry. Maybe I misspoke. I thought we were doing that at the next meeting.
If I may, I can clarify. So this resolution, 051-2026, will make the award of the contract to the lowest responsible bidder, but it is expressly contingent upon Grimes concurrence. So the next resolution that you will see would be approving the contract and bond. So that would be a separate, but there would be no resolution approving that contract and bond if Grimes does not concur in the making of the award to this particular contractor. So this resolution is a little different than past resolutions making the award, simply because it has that language on Grimes's concurrence.
Gotcha. Yep, so I misspoke on the process.
All right, any further questions for John? We're on public hearing. Would anyone like to address the council on this item? Seeing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Cacciatore. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Move resolution 050-2026.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Cacciatore. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Move resolution 051-2026.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Cacciatore. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
And move resolution 054-2026.
Motion by Kroll.
Second.
Second by Cacciatore. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Moving on to item 7.8, and that's a public hearing and consideration of bids for the 65th Street Storm Sewer Improvements from Meredith Drive to Townsend Avenue. That notice was also published in the January 16, 2026 Des Moines Register. And answering objections to that notice is published.
There were none.
The motion to open this public hearing.
So move.
Motion by Bodie,
Second.
second by Cacciatore. Discussion, please vote. John.
Okay, so this is our bid tabulation for the work we're looking to do on 65th Street and on Meredith Drive. So on January 28th, we received 8 bids on this project. We're recommending the low bid of Mainline Construction Incorporated in the amount of $2,478,114.24. This is one where it's actually $52,000 higher than our engineer's estimate. I'd say on this one, it's more that this is a much more complex probably project than the other we've had. We've got larger storm sewer and deeper storm sewer on Meredith, so that's just always maybe a little harder to price with your estimate. We are replacing 3,700 square yards of concrete and 2,000 feet of storm sewer. We will have road closures with this project, and this one is a 2-year project, so we're looking at it to be complete in September of 2027. So just to talk about the project a little bit, our first phase is up on Meredith Drive, and that's where we'll need to close Meredith Drive while we're doing the work. We're installing, which is this green line through here, is a 54-inch storm sewer that's fairly deep. Ultimate outlet here is a 72-inch pipe. But we do have restrictions that 67th and 66 cannot be closed at the same time, so they'll kind of be working east, but Meredith will remain closed. We're hopeful that we'll get all of Meredith done this year. We'll have to wait and see if they can get even part of Phase 2A done next year. We'll make sure they only do enough that it's fully done and open before winter. But again, if everything goes well on Meredith, if they could even get half of the blue Phase 2, that'd be great. If they just happen to get the Phase 1 done in 2026, then 65th Street will be done in 2 phases in 2027. Our 65th Street, it'll be similar to like our Roseland Drive project. We'll install storm sewer through the neighborhood. There is no storm sewer on 65th today, so they'll have storm sewer intakes, and then they'll have the sump service lines brought to every property. With that, I'd be glad to answer any questions. Oh, I did want to mention too, though, in November, we had a public meeting where we invited everybody involved in the project and explained everything to them at that time.
What's the detour look like for Meredith while it's being worked
Yep,
on?
so we'll use Merle Hay Road to Aurora to 70th. So we'll just bring them around on the major road there.
John, forgive me if you already covered this. Will there be homes where people will not be able to access their driveways during this?
Correct. Yep,
Okay.
there'll be areas where they'll need to walk. So that's why we've designated, kind of split things up to where people can park.
I'm not familiar with, is there sidewalks in that area that would be disrupted as part of this project?
They get replaced, but ultimately, the way we have it set up, while they're working on the road, they leave the sidewalk in place so that they can have a way to walk, and then as we move along and the street's done, they remove the sidewalk that's 4 foot and put in a 5 foot sidewalk.
Okay. So the street would be open so that people could use their driveways while.
Or at least park in the street.
Okay.
Yep. A lot of times, they just keep things moving. They'll get the street paved. Once it's cleaned up and ready, they can park in the street, then they'll work driveways and sidewalks.
Gotcha.
All right, any further questions? We are in public hearing. Would anyone like to address the council on this item? Seeing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing? Christie, you're just dying to do it, I know you are. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So move.
Motion by Bodie,
Second.
second by Cacciatore. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Move Resolution 035-2026.
Motion by Bodie,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Move Resolution 036-2026.
Motion by Bodie,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
And move Resolution 057-2026.
Got 37.
Oh, I missed one. 037-2026.
Motion by Bodie,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote.
Checked it too soon.
That's right. That passes.
And move Resolution 057-2026.
Motion by Bodie,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes, and John gets a well-deserved break here. We move on to establishing public hearings. Item 8.1 is to establish a public hearing for the development agreement with the Enclave Apartments for February 17, 2026. Curtis, will answer any questions if there are.
Motion to approve resolution 061-2026.
Motion by Rosendahl,
Second.
second by Bodie. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Item 8.2 is to establish a public hearing for the sanitary sewer easement vacation for Timberline Nap LLC for February 17, 2026.
Move resolution 030-2026.
Motion by Bodie,
Second.
second by Parbury Montgomery. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Item 8.3 is to establish a public hearing for the Northview Park Trail, Sylvan Ridge to Northview Park for March 3, 2026.
Motion to approve resolution 053-2026.
Motion by Rosendahl,
Second.
second by Bodie. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Item 8.4 is to establish a public hearing for the Douglas Avenue preservation from 111th Street to 121st Street for March 3, 2026.
Move resolution 026-2026.
Motion by Bodie,
Second.
second by Cacciatore. Discussion, please vote. That passes. All right, we are skipping over item 9.1. That was removed from the agenda, so we move on to item 10.1. That's to consider the professional services agreement for the downtown zoning ordinance and streetscape plan. And to introduce this is our new community development director, Rose Schroeder. Rose, welcome, and
Will be
the floor is
nice.
yours.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Look at 'em. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm going to go through the request in front of you, which is a professional services agreement with WSC to do some downtown code work and a little bit of streetscape or design work with that as well. So to start that off, I want to just talk a little bit about the background, how we got here. A little bit about what is included in the scope of the project, of course, and then how we arrived at our staff recommendation to you all this evening, and then follow up a little bit with just some other thoughts on schedule and, of course, the proposed fee that was included for the project. So you all will know this mostly better than I, but in June of 2025, you did in fact adopt a downtown master plan, which included lots of recommendations for different parts of that plan. And in several sort of subcategories within that plan, there are many mentions of taking a look at the zoning regulations that we currently have in place. How do we do some things that are objectives in that plan and use zoning as a tool to get there? So accommodating mixed-use development. What about kind of the missing middle, or maybe some different looks about density even in the periphery of the existing neighborhoods surrounding downtown? And to just think a little bit differently about, because we will be working in that downtown area in confined spaces, and a lot of it will be redevelopment, how do we think a little differently about how that private development interfaces with our public realm, and can we think a little differently about maybe what is our public realm there? So those are all kind of parts that came out of the downtown plan. Of course, in the Forward Urbandale Comprehensive Plan, it was already talking before the downtown plan about thinking about looking at the downtown zoning a little bit differently, whether that's an overlay or some other kind of classification to sort of address those unique setback, could be parking. How do we make it a more walkable, friendly place where maybe you want to park once and get out and walk around and spend some time there? So that's the sort of the how and the why we got here. We'll talk a little bit about the process in a minute, but the city did put out a request for qualifications, and I'm going to just summarize what effectively we asked for in that RFQ. So I would break it up into two parts. One is the actual zoning code or code work. So looking at what we have today for the zoning districts that are in and around our downtown, and thinking about uses, what are those districts? Maybe there are overlays. We need to think differently about sort of the dimensional standards I would lump together, things like our setbacks, FAR maybe, just kind of really taking a look at everything about how our code relates to the built environment there, even looking maybe a little bit about building designs. And then, of course, whenever we're doing zoning code work, looking at our procedures, and also whatever we do there, how will it relate to the rest of the code? Because this isn't going to exist in a vacuum. The other part of this, like I said, is thinking about those edges where our private development or redevelopment is interfacing with our city streets. How do we think about parking in a little bit different way? And make sure that we're still considering those other public amenities, whether that's things as simple as the street trees and landscaping to what is the bicycle infrastructure there, what makes it a welcoming place that people will want to be out and about in, as well as for the businesses, frankly, that will make investment there. So those are the categories of things we listed in the request for qualifications. A little bit of the timeline on the selection. So that RFQ went out in mid-ish December, on December 11th. We received 3 responses. Those responses were due about a month later on January the 12th. And we held interviews with each of those 3 responses that we received on January 22nd. We did those interviews by panel with representatives from various city departments, city manager's office, community development, economic development, public works, and engineering. Excuse me. So some of the things that we asked each and every respondent in their interview were some pretty straightforward things. Tell us about your experience. What is the professional makeup of the team? Meaning, was it all planners? Were there planners and landscape architects? Were there attorneys? Just what are the different disciplines that were being brought to the table in their proposal? Asked questions and talked about examples of successful similar type projects or work that they had done. Did ask some specific questions sort of on the realm about what about kind of that missing middle housing that would be on the fringe. What's their experience with that? What have they seen that's successful? What's been a challenge maybe in what they have prepared versus what has really been built? And then also not forgetting about how that interfaces again with our public spaces. So as we're writing new code, how do we think about how it relates to our public environment and everything from parking in the right of way to what are those pedestrian amenities and how does that relate to how we're regulating the private development that's immediately adjacent. One sort of common theme again is working and designing sort of in those constrained spaces, right? We're not in an open green field. We're not always going to be on a vacant lot. So how do we work and phase into a district or an environment like this? And then generally just what are some creative problem-solving issues that have come up along projects? There's always, in my own experience, something a little strange that comes to light in the middle of a project that maybe no one anticipated. And so what has been one of those curveballs, and how did they respond and kind of pivot from there? So those were the types of questions that we asked each of those that submitted, and then everyone on our panel scored those accordingly. And we arrived at a consensus to recommend to you an agreement with White Smith Casino with Confluence as a sub-consultant. Now, in that proposal, the lead on the code drafting and that work will certainly be led by WSC. Confluence will work more on the public space and kind of the arrangement of how the two interface. There certainly will be overlap, but SC will definitely be the lead on our codification work. So we arrived at that as a staff. I made some reference calls after that. To be perfectly honest, there were a couple things that I specifically wanted to know. We knew based on the submittal that WSC and Confluence have worked together before on other projects. I wanted to know a little more specifically, had they worked together on this kind of a project, and sort of how do those roles work together, because I just wanted to have a better understanding of that. And then also called another client project as a reference, the project they did in Fairfax, Virginia, and just talked to that project manager about just overall how did that project go? Like, did they stay committed to the schedule that was agreed on? Were they, timely with their submittals, or was the city always reaching out and having to ask for things? Did they stay on budget? Of course, always. And I felt like I got a very encouraging answer from that, which is that once they got into that project, it was a little more than even they had scoped for. There were a lot more intricacies in their existing code and how they were trying to do some modifications. And so the comment that I got was, they stayed on time and budget, and we actually got more than we ever thought that we really would, or even knew that we needed. So, so I think that is a good statement to have from another city working with them. So timeline and budget, we intend to move pretty quickly with this if the contract or the agreement is granted. We're going to kick off right tomorrow probably, and work straight through till September. Now, they were okay with this fairly aggressive schedule. You will notice a little bit on the bottom, all those little M's are our internal kind of staff meetings with them. So once we kick off and they've done kind of their background and fact finding, and we've done some stakeholder meetings on the front side, then we really get into sort of this iterative process where they start drafting immediately. We're reviewing those initial documents, and we kind of just chug through this on kind of a 2-week cycle, turning around. Now, one of the key things in the early part, probably in the Marchish part, based on the approach, is really getting down to what approach are we taking? Like, is this an overlay? Is it rewriting some existing code? Is it a hybrid somewhere in between? And so that will be a critical thing to flush out early, and then I think we'll be off to the races. The fee on their proposal was a little bit over $124,000. I would be remiss if I didn't note, which you saw in the staff report, that in the current budget there was sort of a line item for $25,000. I won't speak for others, but I would say that at the time we were in budget cycle last year would have predated the adoption actually of the downtown plan. So I'm not really sure that we would have known fully what that list of recommendation or projects were, and sort of what kind of professionals would be needed. So that is the discrepancy there. The one thing I would just say that I skipped over a little bit, one of the things for me specifically that is compelling on any code writing project is that they have in-house attorneys who are also planners, which that's just helpful as the process is moving along. It doesn't sort of save all of that for the end, so that's compelling to me as well. That's the end of my high-level presentation. Happy to answer any questions or defer to people who were here when we started.
Rose, in relation to your reference calls, you talked about the one in Virginia. Did Confluence work with them on that project?
They actually did not
Okay.
on that particular project.
So, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry.
Well, the projects that they have partnered with Confluence, which I'm glad they've done that before and have a relationship, are those mostly Midwestern projects, or?
I would say they're fairly scattered, although geographically, I would say that they are similar roles. So WSC also does some planning and design work, although I would say code work is a lot of what they do. Their format is often they do some of the master planning and then they kind of come in with the code work. And I think that on the occasions when they have partnered with Confluence specifically, it's been a very similar arrangement where they kind of do the lifting on the code piece. The projects that we looked at, it was a little bit different on each of them. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Confluence has been around and we're pretty much all familiar with them. So I'm glad that they've had this experience working with somebody that I'm not familiar with, but that doesn't mean they're not good. So, thank you.
What sort of touch bases with council are we gonna see in terms of while the project's going through?
Yep, so, as we have scoped it right now, certainly on the kickoff events, there will be interaction with both Planning Commission and certainly the City Council there. Then once we really sort of get into the grind of the drafting and some of those pieces, what we will do that will correspond with kind of our at least every 2-week touch base with the consulting team, it will be more often than that, but our official check-ins, that'll result in kind of a progress report and a report back that we as staff will be giving and keeping updates to Planning Commission and Council. Then as we get closer toward the end, there will be presentation to both. And we also have the option, we have not talked about this internally, but of doing like some kind of joint workshop also when we get sort of farther toward the end when there's really something to react and respond to.
Rose, the quote gets us both WSC and Confluence, correct?
Correct.
And worst case scenario, if Confluence flops, that's WSC's problem.
Correct. Confluence is a sub-consultant to them, so our agreement will be with WSC.
Yeah, we will not have a separate agreement with Confluence,
No.
correct? And we probably won't see WSC's contract with Confluence.
Typically, we would not.
Is there any potential for upcharges in this contract? I haven't gone through with it.
They have included their hourly rate structure, which would not be uncommon. If we ask for additional services, additional travel that's not already scoped, there could be. But it would have to be agreed upon in advance.
Got it. Thank you.
All right, any further questions?
I'll move approval of resolution 060-2026.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery,
Second?
second by Bodie. Any further discussion? If not, please vote.
I just lost my.
That passes. Item 10.2 is consider the professional services agreement for the downtown branding system, and I'll turn it over to our marketing director, Derek Zarn. Derek?
Good evening. Give me just a moment. I did not pull this to the desktop before I started here. Okay, I'm actually gonna see. Both these computers. Okay, good evening, thank you. So as part of implementing the Urbandale Downtown Master Plan, the plan specifically identified the need to invest in social infrastructure for the area and to establish an identity or a brand in order to begin establishing some kind of new patterns of use for this area. So to advance those recommendations, staff conducted a competitive RFP process, and we're now bringing forward the attached professional services agreement for council approval. So this work is intended to function as really an economic development tool. Marketing, communications, and econ dev, we work very closely together. So it should provide a clear and scalable identity that the toolkit can be consistently applied across Urbandale as it evolves. Right now, downtown the brand system is going to help the city present a coherent and credible story to the residents, the partners, and the businesses, and to the market. It would support future initiatives tied to the big block and the little block, and really the downtown as a whole. So as we know, downtown is in transition, is kind of a nice way to put it. So today's identity needs to be credible for now, and it needs to be credible for later as well. So we need a system that can help support some early wins, get behind kind of some of the projects that we're working on. The big block, sorry, the name is escaping me. Oh, the Party in the Park. That was a good win for us, but we need more things to get behind it. And it needs to be usable and needs to translate to place-based applications. So we issued 16 total proposals. We interviewed 3 finalists, and we selected De Novo Marketing to help us with this project. The proposals were evaluated based on overall approach and fit for the district, a brand system. Did they have relevant experience? Was their stakeholder and community engagement realistic? Was the methodology would work in that area? And were they the ability to produce usable deliverables, templates, toolkits, things that our partners and businesses that are going to come down there can collaborate with us on? And of course, overall value for the city. Sorry here. While the scores, I will say while the scores were very, very close, one thing that personally gave me a lot of confidence in De Novo Marketing, who we're recommending, was that they were the only firm that actually reached out to Bolton and Mank, the firm that created our downtown master plan, and actually talked with them about, okay, what do they need for this? What does Urbandale need for this? And so when I heard that, I was like, okay, the scores are close, but I think this is a good choice. When we look at the schedules and the milestones, staff does recommend approval of this project. Kickoff would literally happen this Thursday. If you were to approve it tonight, we've got some time marked for that. It's about a 12 to 15 week project. We are aiming for June, but that's flexible. We'd like it to be a little bit ahead of the zoning, but just depends on timeline. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you've got them.
So I'm not a marketing specialist or expert like you. So, I mean, I guess, what do you envision that they're gonna come back to us? I mean, with big picture, obviously not specifics, but I'm having a hard time wrapping my brain around what we're gonna get back in June.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I'm rolled back to this slide, what is a brand system? Right now, what we've really just been telling people is that downtown's gonna be better. That's the thing. And that's fine, that's true, it is gonna be better. But we need a clear promise and messaging strategy for what we're gonna tell investors, what we're gonna tell homeowners, what we're gonna tell people and businesses that are gonna invest into this area. Once we've identified what our clear promise and our value proposition is, we'll then be able to create the branding and the framework around that promise. So when we go out to sell this to businesses, when we go out to sell this to investors or people that want to come here, we have a real story to tell. The other part too is we need kind of everyone to sing from the same songbook, from the same hymn, and this project will allow everyone to do that. It will allow businesses connecting to this brand to get behind it and really celebrate some of the successes. The city is putting a considerable amount of money into downtown over the next 5, 10, 15 years. This is really considered the foundational groundwork of how we sell that vision going forward into the future.
So would this be similar to like what we did prior to everyone but Bob, like with the urban loop? I mean, like a similar thing or?
Similar. I would say this is probably a little more complex because the city was really championing, the urban loop brand, and we eventually would like to one day hope that downtown Urbandale is, thriving without us, that we don't really have to be the conductors of this. Similar, but not the same.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit more about De Novo's experience in this area?
So they, actually, I'll talk about kind of three of them. The three that we interviewed, Art House was out of Denver, and Destination by Design was out of North Carolina. De Novo they all had great experience, and actually all 16 proposals, I mean, it was hard to choose. One thing that made De Novo rise to the top was the value, the amount of quality of work that we were going to get in this proposal. Seemed to be more considerable than the others. They also have that local experience. They've worked with other cities in Iowa, so they kind of understand the locality, the nativeness, people, Downtown Denver is a lot different than downtown Des Moines or downtown Urbandale. So that kind of localness helps. And the ability for them to physically come on site if they needed to more, some Denver versus North Carolina is also helpful.
And where's De Novo again?
They're in Cedar Rapids.
Oh, wow.
So do you have any examples of the work that they did in, for example, Cedar Rapids or any place else in Iowa? Or?
Yeah, I do. I don't think it's attached to but we can send you I can send their portfolio that they submitted with their.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah, thank you. That'd be great.
Certainly.
So I see here that it would be like downtown name concepts, like, because I think the idea that we had was we're not going to say this is what we're calling it. Like, we're kind of trying to feel it out a bit.
We need to figure that out. I think one of the things we heard early on is, does Urbandale really have a downtown? You'll hear people kind of jab at us in that way. Mm-hmm. So we need to figure out what are we calling this area, and then how do we sell it? And we know we've got downtown Urbandale, we've got a big block and a little block, and that's kind of the names we've been using internally. Sometimes Node, we've called it other things, but we really need a way to define that and then sell it.
Will there be some kind of logo resulting from this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So kind of a suite of materials as well as the overall concepts and story.
Yeah, I would hesitate to think of it as just a logo. It really is
Right.
a brand system.
Right.
Certainly there will be a logo, but really it's how do you take all of these diverse pieces and fit them together and make it look like a whole?
Yeah.
And how that is used today is going to need to work in 10, 15 years as well. So it won't be an easy task for them. So.
Yeah. Thanks.
Any other questions?
Any other questions for Derek?
I move resolution 063-2026.
Motion by Rosendahl.
Second.
Second by Bodie. Discussion. Please vote. That passes. Item 10.3 is consider the bids for the 2025 traffic signal improvements, and John was just itching to get back up here.
Right. All right, so this is the bids for our 2025 traffic signal improvements. In a few weeks, we'll be bringing back the 2026 traffic signal improvements. So we're kind of had some money left over in 25 that we're using here, and then we'll have our usual 26 project. On January 28th, we did receive 2 bids for the project. We are recommending the low bid from Iowa Signal in the amount of $51,350, which also includes alternates 1 and 2. Those alternates were for the replacement of 2 traffic cameras. Their bid was approximately $5,600 or 10% less than our estimate. And what we're including, you'll see the preemption GPS and the Opticon phase selector. That's all related to our preemption system that police and fire use to help navigate through the traffic signals. We did have a traffic signal handhold that we needed to lower. And then we also needed to replace a traffic signal pole at 86th Street and the interstate. That was damaged by a vehicle. Their insurance will be reimbursing us for that. So again, we bid that out with this project, and we're hoping everything will be done by the end of May this year. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Is the amount here inclusive of that insurance, or is that?
This is what our contract is, and then we'll bill them and get that back, so that'll be credited back to the project.
Gotcha.
Our actual out-of-pocket amount will be less. As I recall right, I think the signal pole is roughly 15,000.
Really expensive crash.
All right. Want to move it?
Move Resolution 062-2026.
My Bodie.
Second.
Second by Carberry Montgomery. Discussion, please vote.
Did I swear to God, I hit it.
It's your last vote tonight.
I hit it.
That passes. Okay, item 11, City Manager's Report, David.
Yeah, just real quickly, two very quick things. First is just want to thank the council for the vote on the revenue purpose statements tonight. I know we've got the final reading of the franchise agreement ordinances the next meeting, but obviously we're well on our way. You remember a number of months ago when we talked about there were two very important policy decisions or two very important actions that we could take to shore up our revenues and that were very high priority to us. And the first was this one. So we're one down and one to go. The other is the special census, which the mayor and I continue to work on. So stay tuned for more information on that. We are not giving up on that topic. We continue to work very hard on that. The beauty of those two things is they're very rarely can you significantly increase revenue without impacting the resident, without actually collecting more revenue. So both of these items are really redistributing revenue that's already being collected, which I think from a policymaking standpoint should be one of your favorite things to do. Because these aren't really increased taxes, they're just redistributed. And they're very important as we grow, and Urbandale's a moderately growing city. I mean, we have lots of new residents, lots of new services to provide. So it's very important that those revenues move in lockstep with our residents. So that's why you see a lot of attention on these things from staff and myself. Secondly, just wanted to mention very quickly the property tax legislation. Nikki and I have been really kind of laser focused on the budget the last couple weeks. But we will be shifting some of our attention to the property tax legislation. We gave very high-level feedback on all three bills, primarily to Representative McBurney initially, but we'll be talking to other folks as well throughout the process. Happy to go into some level of detail on that. I'm really hopeful that there's some indication fairly soon about traction on certain provisions of the bill. Obviously, the governor's bill and the House bill have gone through sub. And so the Senate bill is the one that I don't believe, to my knowledge, has not gone through sub yet. So paying attention to those details, and we'll continue to provide feedback to the council. We have not done any very specific, Urbandale specific modeling yet, because we are hopeful that there'll be some indication of which ideas are starting to move forward. The one that feels like is the most likely is some type of cap on the general fund, just because it continues to come up in proposal after proposal. Not all of them, but many of them. So we've weighed in generally on ways that the language in that could be loosened a little bit that would still potentially reach the policy objective of the legislature, but also give cities a little bit more flexibility when costs are increasing or when the consumer price index spikes. So happy to talk more about that as the process moves forward. And that's all I've got.
Thank you. Blake?
Let's see. Want to thank everybody for all the public safety coordination that was happening last week. It was a big lift. And so appreciate everybody keeping everybody in the area safe. For our budget meeting, I did want to make sure that Pat is recognized as Mayor Pro Tem on the cover sheet. So that's my correct.
This is
that's my
deja vu
correction,
all over again, Blake.
Nikki.
I remember that from last year.
And then, so excited for that on Saturday. I did want to ask, on the South Side of Lions Park where we did the electrical hookups and everything like that, I think I saw that there were some bollards put to protect some of those, but I didn't notice them on the southwest corner for that last hookup. I don't know if I just missed it because I was driving by and didn't notice, but I just wanted to check to see if that was an intention to leave those exposed.
We'll look into that and get back to you, Blake.
That's it.
Okay, thanks. Bridget?
We didn't have a DART meeting today, so I just wanted to read something that was, I think, in the paper last week after the House subcommittee. My friend, Mayor Trimble in West Des Moines, sent me this quote that was in the paper from Representative Wickendahl from Hiawatha. I think we're lucky that there's a number of former city council members that get it in the legislature. Not enough, though. But she said large portions of local government's budgets go to public safety, and limiting their revenue growth could mean our public safety has to do more with less. It's defund the police in just fancier language, she said. Honestly, if you want to back the blue, you can't cut the green. And I just think that that sentence really puts a nice little bow on the problems that we're facing when the legislature doesn't really know what we have to do to make sure that the ambulance or fire truck arrives at your house and the snowplow gets past your driveway so you can get to work. So keep on keeping on, David and Bob, and let us know when we can help.
Pat?
Well, I also really wanted to thank Urbandale and Clive public safety folks for really taking on what was a ridiculously challenging project last week. And I was there, and I felt very safe, and I really felt like I was very proud to be part of those communities who were doing that work to keep people safe, who wanted to express themselves. It just was excellent. I got word that we did receive the ICON grant for that piece in Western Urbandale to access water for fun things. And then I wanted to mention just a couple of things. I remain concerned about House File 2041, which would require our local police to collaborate, or that's not quite the word, is it? It's cooperate with federal authorities in what they might want to do. And I just think we need to really be careful. I keep looking at lists of bills that are getting followed, and it's not always there. And I know they skipped the subcommittee meeting for it, so hopefully that's a good sign, but I think we need to be very watchful. And then similarly, I want to be very clear, I am not remotely concerned about our local police and public safety people. I think they're exquisite and are going to do wonderful things with whatever they've got. I'm very worried about some of the things that we're hearing about related to these flock cameras and this sort of thing in this environment. If it were a different environment, I probably wouldn't be so concerned. But when I look at the agreement, some of the language that's in that agreement, and I'm not an attorney at all, but it sure feels like there's a sort of carte blanche thing there for these flock cameras. And I think we've got to really look at that closely, not just as Urbandale, but as a region, and kind of make sure that we're comfortable that we've got the control over our data. And I'm not sure we really do. And I know we keep saying, well, we're part of this certification process, it should all be okay. I think we got to really look at it super closely. I'm we're hearing from people about it a lot, and hearing some negative examples around the country. And so I just think we gotta be super careful. And that's all I've got.
Okay, thanks, Pat. Amy?
Obviously lots of great things that have happened. I also just want to highlight the talk with officials. I know the mayor did a great job as usual. There was a question that I think we need to spend some time thinking about how we want to respond as a council related to how we cooperate and partner with ICE or Border Patrol. And I think before that comes to our community,
Right.
we need to be prepared and know how we are going to respond, as well as identify and commit to what we believe to as a council. And so I think there needs to be time set aside for us to have those conversations, whether publicly, I assume publicly.
They has to be
But to be able to clearly articulate what our stance is and how we will protect our community. So, and I did not make it to MAC this morning. I assume it was
I'll talk about
fine.
that. Yeah, I'll talk
So-
about that.
Okay, that's all I have.
All right, thanks. Joe?
Well, I know how Pat Bodie felt last year, being the last one in line here, but everyone,
Last 2 years.
yeah,
You go from first to last. I know.
that's right. So everyone kind of have covered my topics. I was also at talk with officials, and thank you, Mayor. I thought you did a nice job. But to Amy's point and to Pat's point, there were questions about ALPRs. There were questions about local cooperation with federal, and I think those are questions that are going to continue to come up, over and over again. People are very, very concerned about it. So to the extent that we can, arrive at a solid position and communicate that to the public, I think the better off we'll be. Otherwise, the rumors swirl, there's misinformation, and people just continue to have questions about it. So I just think we need to communicate with the public very clearly about those things, whatever our position ends up being. I echo the kudos to our public safety folks for working with Clive. I think, every time we partner with our neighbors, it just builds those relationships. It's a good thing. I have a question for John Larson. When will Roseland be closed down again for the project up there?
Speaking of clear communication.
We have not had conversations with our contractor yet. I think a lot of it depends on the weather. Do we have an early spring? Could be going late March, early April, or could be a little later into April. But again, as soon as the weather really allows, we'll get going again.
Is that going to coincide with, closing down Colby Woods Drive for a week for the other patch program there?
I don't think those two will have a great impact, but pretty good chance when they're doing those patches, Roseland will be closed, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Happens to be in my neighborhood, and I get a lot of questions about that, so at least I can answer it.
Yep.
And then finally, I wanted to, I don't know if this happened since our last meeting or not, the Urbandale High School Show Choir won the Johnston Showzam contest. So kudos to them.
Cool.
That's all I've got.
Show choir is so awesome.
Thanks, Joe. I do have a few things as well. I mean, just to follow up again on the presidential visit. One thing that Clive did a fantastic job, as well as our folks. But one thing that really maybe not a lot of people appreciated was that it was also Windsor Heights and Waukee that were filling in on the streets as well as our folks were, and Clive's folks were all dealing with that situation. So it's not just Clive and Urbandale, it was also our neighbors that are pitched in and were watching our streets as we were trying to respond. The living history, the machine shed visit was scheduled like a day or two before that, so our folks scrambled to cover that. As you know, I watched part of that from the EOC and Clive and was very impressed as far as everybody's participation in that. So. Thanks for talking about Talk with Officials. Yeah, we had a great turnout, some great discussions. At the recent Catch Des Moines meeting, I had a chance to make a 2-minute presentation on Urbandale, catch up on Urbandale. I highlighted the downtown plan and our comprehensive plan update, so that was nice to do that. At MAC this morning, we did visit about the property tax bills. It was at 7:30 at the Capitol. Unfortunately, there are no legislators there because they didn't get there because they were all caucusing last night, so they were not in the Capitol at 7:30 this morning. So it was just local officials there, but we did have a good discussion among the local officials there. And we will have some further discussions on that. Probably at Milog next week, we're gonna have the Iowa League of Cities there. So, I mean, I think the consensus, there's not a consensus about one particular bill. I think the consensus is that we need to look at the best pieces of each of the bills and try to form something that we all can live with. So I don't think any one bill is gonna survive intact. I think it's gonna be, let's figure out what we can work with from the different parts of the bills. So stay tuned on that. There'll be sausage making at its finest. With that, that's what I have, and so we do have a closed session item to enter into closed session at the request of the city manager to discuss pursuant to Iowa 21.51I. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Rosendahl,
Second.
second by Bodie. Discussion, please vote. I'm sorry, you did have one more vote. Yeah.
Can we all have that?
Yes. Yeah, I don't think we need to move. Thanks, Maria. We'll see you tomorrow night.
Can I run to the bathroom?
Yes.